So what if when we're simplifying square roots, we have variables in here with exponents and we need to take the square root of that? But when we look at both of these, the exponent on the variable is an odd number. And so if we like to do our little trick and try to divide by 2, we're going to end up with a fraction or a decimal. We can't have that. So what can we do with these variables in order to split it up the same way we did with the whole numbers that were under the radicand sign in the previous video? What can we do with these variables here? Well, we can do the same thing. We're going to split it apart and remember our product rule. Our product rule says that if you have two variables that are the same, when you're multiplying them, you add the exponents. All right? So what I'm going to do is just subtract 1 from this. So I'm going to have y times y to the 10th. So there's this little 1 right there if you want to leave it or put that there. And 1 plus 10 equals 11. So always just subtract 1 and pull that y out to by itself, and then have the rest of them all together so that you have an even and an odd. 1 plus 10 equals 11. Now, just as in our previous video, we can divide this exponent by 2. We can take the perfect square root of y to the 10th. So the perfect square root of y to the 10th is going to be y to the 5th. So y to the 5th times y to the 5th would equal y to the 10th. And what are we going to have left over underneath the radical sign? Just the y that we pulled out at the very beginning. So when we take the square root of y to the 11th, what we're going to end up doing is pulling it apart and then taking the perfect square root of one of those parts so we can bring it out front, and then whatever's left underneath the radical sign will stay there. So let's try that one more time. In our second one, we have n to the 21st. So I'm going to go ahead and write this, pull the n out by itself and multiply it by n to the 20th. So 1 plus 20 equals 21. I can take the perfect square root of this part of it. So I can divide that by 2. 20 divided by 2 is n to the 10th. So the square root of n to the 20th is n to the 10th. And then what's left underneath our root symbol is n. So the square root of n to the 21st is n to the 10th square root n. So again, we're doing the same process with our variables that we did with our whole numbers. We're just trying to find a factor pair that we can kind of pull apart where we can take the perfect square root of one of them and simplify using that method.